Hi and welcome to Sandwiches, Reviews and Recommendations. In today's video we're going to be talking about Uncharted. The film starts off with a somewhat similar way to how Uncharted 2 starts off with, and whilst I feel like Uncharted 2, the way they did it, it was a great way to start off and go on to this quite an epic adventure, whilst I think the film on the other hand wasn't as interesting. After this we see them borrow somewhat from Uncharted 4, where we see Nathan as a child and he and his brother break into a museum and they look upon this map which so happens to be the main point of the film. In this film we get to see how Nathan and Sully meet, but in my personal opinion it came off as bad and somewhat unrealistic, as we see Nathan pickpocketing a customer and Sully catches him, and instead of introducing him, saying he appreciated his talent, so what, he just immediately says, "Do you want to work with me?" And obviously he says no, and the only way Sully is able to get more of Nathan's attention is by pickpocketing him himself. They then meet at his address, and it's there that Sully reveals that he knew his brother and he knows about the map. He apparently, Sam, Nathan's brother, used to talk about him a lot, and then the plot kicks in. But I feel like if he said that all in the restaurant, it would have made more sense, but for some reason they didn't add that at that particular time. One thing that somewhat bugged me about this film was the humour, as occasionally it was alright, it was average, but majority of the times it would fall flat on its arse. And the main thing that really bugged me was the stereotype of Scottish people, and it just got more and more boring and redundant, only from the beginning all the way to the very near end, and yeah, it's just really boring. One thing though I did enjoy was the action. I felt that the choreography was amazing, and I thought that some of the action scenes actually had a dash of creativity every now and then. It was nice to see. Throughout the film it seems to rely on twists, with no one actually being trustworthy, and it kind of gets to the point that it becomes predictable. And I will admit, the only time I truly appreciated this narrative is when we see Nathan himself do it to a particular colleague, and it's just because it seemed more character development and shows that Nathan is wise to the people around him. Throughout the film it seems to reference Sam, Nathan's brother, and his fate and the fact that he was dead, but if you're a fan of the games and you know the fact that this film is a prequel to the games, you know that what they're throwing at you is simply not true. And it feels like the way they were talking about it, they really wanted to put it in your head that yes, he is dead, yes, he is dead, but only for the pre-credit scene, which just felt so futile, just wasted effort. Yeah. One small thing I did appreciate from this film is near the end of the film we get to see Nathan Drake don the holsters, looking as cool as fuck. It was actually quite cool to see. Overall the film's an okay watch, not particularly big on replay value, just from my personal opinion. It felt like Indiana Jones meets Tomb Raider meets Red Notice, but not in a good way. I felt like there was too many backstabbings, weak humour, but the occasional good action scene. Rating wise I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. If you're an Uncharted fan, it is somewhat of an interesting watch, but not really worth the hassle. I think it's a once watch type situation. Recommendations is actually quite difficult, as most video game adaptations are quite piss poor. It's either average or below average, and the only film that comes to mind that is somewhat decent is Silent Hill. Others I refuse to watch, as I've seen quite a lot of bad adaptations to stop me from wanting to watch any. When it comes to video games though, I definitely think Uncharted is a good franchise. My favourites are definitely Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3. Great storyline and really keeps you interested. Uncharted 4, sadly, I felt was it was the only game that made me yawn so much in such a small amount of time. But I will give it, the graphics on that video game were astounding. It was quite nice to witness. Another game franchise with a weak film adaptation is the Tomb Raider games. I specifically played the later ones, the latest 3 trilogy. I thought they were great, and it's really interesting to see this character go from what she is to where she is. It's I definitely recommend it. There are plenty of adaptations that are being in the works at the moment, so Last of Us would be very interesting. There's also the Splinter Cell TV show, and there are rumours of a Metal Gear Solid movie, which I think all of them would be cool, but I think the Metal Gear Solid movie might be a bad step, only because the Metal Gear Solid franchise is a huge fucking plot that I don't think a film will do it enough justice. It'd have to be a TV show. There are other adaptations in the mix, so we've got Half-Life, we have got Portal, we've got Gears of War, and we've got Call of Duty. And I really hope they do those adaptations, and I really hope they break the spell of being the stereotype video game adaptations are terrible. I really hope they go beyond that and really do a great job. But one can hope. One can hope. Also, I think they should do GTA.